And so I built a computer vision model to detect the school bus going by the house. It sends me a text, and then I know I have about 5 minutes before the bus is going to pick my daughter up. So we actually are using that. It's running 24/7. I'm getting the texts from AWS. And then after I had that running, it was like, okay, well, what can I do next to make my life better?
Hello and welcome to the PyBites podcast, where we talk about Python, career, and mindset. We're your hosts. I'm Julian Sequeira.
And I am Bob Beldebos. If you're looking to improve your Python, your career, and learn the mindset for success, this is the podcast for you. Let's get started. Welcome back, everybody, to the PyBites podcast. This is Bob Beldebos, and I'm here with Kristen Kehrer. Kristen, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, super excited to have you here. Julian would have loved to be here, but as you know, he's in Australia, and it was super hard to align the time zone, especially this time of the year. He is actually traveling, so you'll have to do it with me. But he just that you know, he definitely wanted to be on this one because we're excited to have you here. You're doing so much cool stuff with data in the space, so I'm looking forward to the next 30 minutes to pick your brain, get your background, how you got into it, what you're doing, and share that with our audience. So welcome again. And just to kick off the story, maybe you can, just a broad question, tell us your story, how you got into data science and what excites you about data science, machine learning, AI.
Yeah, so starting from the beginning, I got a bachelor's degree in math, and after a couple years, actually the recession hit, and I had been doing financy stuff for a real estate brokerage. And so I knew I was going to get fired. I decided to hide in academia and got a master's degree in statistics. And so just naturally that lends to working for data when you got out. So, my future boss came in while I was while I was getting my master's in statistics, and was looking for somebody to do econometric time series analysis and forecasting. And so, 2010, right out of grad school, I was, building models with data, and, I've been building models since.
Nice. And you currently work at Comet ML, right? So as a developer advocate. So maybe you can tell us a bit about that transition, how you got into that role, and a bit about the company's mission and what you do day to day.
Yeah, sure. So Comet's mission is definitely to remove the friction from machine learning. And they do that through an experiment tracking tool and modeling models in production. And then so as a developer advocate for that company, I'm constantly evangelizing the product on social media. I'm taking part in conversations where people in ML ops are hanging out on the internet, in places like Reddit. And then I host my own show, the Cool Data Project Show, where I interview practitioners in ML, DL, and AI about cool projects that they're working on, with a focus on their approach and methodology.
Nice. That's a whole lot.
Yeah.
So very active in the space. And I'm definitely going to ask you about some of those projects and also about the content creation. But before getting there, a quick detour, because you've come from R and you transitioned into Python, right? So another question we had in our preparation is, how does R compare to Python? What do you really like about Python? And are there any things you're actually missing from R that you're not finding in Python?
Well, I think that the answer to that question has evolved rapidly over the last couple years. So my transition itself wasn't pretty. I always say that I wish I had taken more programming courses in university. Just, my math degree was pure math, statistics in 2010. They were absolutely teaching everyone R. And in 2018 is about when I transitioned. The data world is heavily moving towards Python. More of the jobs are offered in Python. Overwhelmingly, more of the jobs are offered in Python. And so, I actually learned through MOOCs. And I think that, comparing the two, like in 2018, I had a job that was fully in Python. I was building a project and actually used the RPy2 library to do some time series work. I was using the TBATS algorithm for a project to determine who had a seasonal usage pattern. But so I was starting in Python and I was going over to R because the time series capabilities over there were still, just much more robust. And so as time has gone on, like I was an R Shiny person for building my web apps, big fan, and I felt like it was much more intuitive and easy to use compared to Dash. But now there's Streamlit in Python, which I'd say is almost even easier to use than Shiny. And so, and ggplot2, which is the big library that everyone uses in R for making their plots. There's now a port of that in Python called plot9. And so as time is going, both languages are starting to have things that are very comparable in each, which, has made it a lot easier to continue learning Python as well.
Yeah, so much dependent kind of on the tooling and what you needed for the job or to get a project done. But is there anything like language feature wise that you miss from R that you miss? Yeah, yeah.
The grammar of graphics in R is just a really readable way to be writing code that I really like. But at the same time, there's probably libraries in Python that use that now as well. So
yeah, in Python, there's so much good coverage in the standard library, but for the more data stuff, the PyPI and the package index is just amazing. Like there's just a library for everything.
Yep. It's like there's an app for that.
Yeah. So talk about projects. You told me the other day about some really cool Python projects you recently have developed. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but one, for example, is the school bus, and I will leave it at that. I will just maybe you can mention 2 or 3 of those side projects, why you built them and what's cool about them, and how they really helped you in learning Python, but also advancing your career even.
Yeah, so actually I get my project ideas by walking around my house and deciding what's bothering me and, what I could improve in my life. And
Scratch your own itch, right?
And so one of those was the school bus. So, it was really difficult because I'd be making an English muffin or something for my kids, and I'm not able to see the bus passing the house. And then it became, did we miss the bus? Is the bus late today? And it actually was like a real point of anxiety and stress in the morning. And we're very lucky that the bus passes our house in the morning, picks somebody else up, and comes back and picks my daughter up at the end of the driveway. And so I built a computer vision model to detect the school bus going by the house. It sends me a text, and then I know I have about 5 minutes before the bus is going to pick my daughter up. So we actually are using that. It's running 24/7. I'm getting the texts from AWS. And then after I had that running, it was like, okay, well, what can I do next to make my life better? And so using similar technology, except now I'm going to be on a Raspberry Pi instead of, using my desktop. But this next one is, and actually I bought a 3D printer, and I've 3D printed a case, and it holds the little Raspberry Pi and like a $10 camera, and it points at my pill bottles. So every day, this isn't running yet. It's still in development, but I do have YOLO V5 running on the Raspberry Pi, looking to get that running a little bit better. And I've started annotating data, but I don't have it running end to end yet at all. But so the pictures that I'm annotating is just going to be when I pick up the pill bottle, when it sees my fingers on the pill bottle, it's going to send me a text and it's going to store the data in a database. And so basically that's because, you know, there's many times, but even at 10 a.m., I'm like, did I take my pills today? And then it's, you know, did I miss my pills? Well, I also don't want to take my pills twice. And so that's been a pain point for me, but also, you know, more for fun. So the text part is very useful to me, but also for funsies, I will build an app that'll have like, you know, the 30-day adherence rate of, you know, when am I taking my pills? What day am I most likely to forget my pills? I don't want to make it sound like I always forget my pills because I don't. But, you know, that's the next project that I'm working on.
Yeah, what's really cool with these projects is that you build up a database of trends, right? And yeah, at the very start, it's almost no data, but have that running for a year. All of a sudden, you see these cool trends, and you can make predictions, and yeah, it might be you might get some mind blowing insights. It's also cool that you combine the hardware with real sensors and stuff. And yeah, and I think for our audience, because we always talk about building apps, and you have to build to really get a thorough understanding of the technology, and people have to say what to build, right? Sometimes they overcomplicate it because you have to build the next Twitter or Mastodon. Not really, right? Just walk around your house and look at small things, which when you start implementing can really get out of hand in a good way, right? So yeah. Nice. And then of course that leads nicely into the next question, because you don't just build those things, but then you go actively on social, and I think particularly LinkedIn, and talk about those projects, right? So that then leads to naturally to content creation. So I wanted to talk a bit about that content creation process. How important you think it is, and how do you stay consistent with it, and just overall your process. So you build something, and do you write a blog post, you produce a video? What is your process?
Yeah, so the computer vision project to detect the bus specifically, that one has turned into a number of podcast invites. The first article I wrote about it is on my blog. The second one was a guest blog. So I used RoboFlow in the project, and so I've made friends with RoboFlow during that, and so the second blog was up there. I still have to write the third blog. There's been a couple of things that have gotten in front of that, but for sure, I absolutely look to stretch any project that I create as far as I can, so I also have an email list with 6,600 people on it. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, like I'm everywhere. I'm on Reddit. I actually do really well on Reddit. And so, definitely looking to stretch everything as far as possible. Consistency has been an issue, with COVID. I actually took like a year off and was really excited to see that when I came back, that the algorithm was just as friendly to me as it was before. But yeah, so,
the Reddit one or the LinkedIn one?
What?
Which algorithm, the Reddit one or the LinkedIn one? Or all of them?
LinkedIn one. Reddit is beautiful because you don't have to have a following to get mileage on Reddit. So if you do something in computer vision that's cool and you create a video of it and you share it on Reddit with 0 followers, you're gonna get traction on that post in a way that you won't on other platforms.
Right. But your main channel would be your blog or LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn, you have quite a big following, right?
Yeah, so I have 89,000 on LinkedIn, and yes, that is 100% my main platform. I prioritize, keeping that up above anything else.
And is that, I mean, apart from the big following, is that also the most suitable platform, you think, for technical data Python content?
So there is absolutely a huge data community there, and the right people that we'd want to attract to Comet is there as well. Everyone from all the way from analyst to cutting edge AI is hanging out on LinkedIn. At least enough of these people.
Are you also on Mastodon? There's a big
No,
flight
no.
from Twitter to Mastodon these days.
Yeah. I saw everyone migrating. The way that it's not, you're not going to get organic reach past the people that are already in the little groups. I don't know much about Mastodon, but it didn't look like something that I wanted to take on in addition to all the platforms I'm currently managing.
Yeah, you got a lot already. No, that's inspiring, because we apart from big on the technical and the Python skills, we also always recommend the people that work with us and our community, like, you not only have to build, you also have to get it out there, right? Build up your portfolio so that people can see what skills you have, and go a bit more from pushing to pulling in with what we with which we mean to, you cannot rely, recruiters or next opportunity just come to you naturally, right? Build and they will come. That just doesn't happen, right? So by as that book, our favorite career book, So Good That They Cannot Ignore You, by Cal Newport, says, like, build up career assets, right? And there's definitely the more you do that, the more opportunities open up, right? So
100%. Yeah, no, I mean, I can't even express the amount of opportunities that have come to me through LinkedIn that I never would have assumed would have come through. And absolutely, it has paid dividends. I highly suggest that, and I can't tell you about the number of recruiters that are in my mailbox. Like, I hear from them multiple a week. It certainly pays dividends to put some effort into your personal brand.
Right. Awesome. And but now you're doing that for a long time, right? How's
Yes.
content creation compare now to when you started? Because I can imagine for people starting out, it's very scary. There's a lot of imposter syndrome, right? Has it become easier? Are you just pushing through that imposter syndrome these days because of you have done it so many times? Or is there still just always that battle, like, I'm going to put something out there, I'm not sure if it's good enough, let's just roll with the punches? Is that still the case, or
just roll with the punches? It's funny, as your following gets larger, or I can't speak for anybody else, for me, like, if I do something stupid in front of like 500 people and then I take it down, it's like, that just doesn't feel like a lot of people. And I also think for me, so I'm, in 2008, I went to a Women in Mathematics conference, and they asked, we're sitting in the auditorium, and they say, does anyone ever feel like if your school knew who you really were, or what you knew, that like they'd still want you there? And everyone was I don't remember exactly how it was worded, but everyone was sort of raising their hand in terms of, I have imposter syndrome, and my hand was up too. And I feel like the first 5 or 6 years of my career, I really struggled with, I don't know enough. I don't know. People probably expect me to know this. But I don't know, I'm turning 40 next birthday. And at this point, like, it just doesn't bother me the way it was. Like, I know what I know. I've been around long enough to see, work with other people and see what they know too, and understand what their gaps are as well. And like, we all have things we know, we all have gaps. And I'm just, really comfortable in what my gaps are too. I go into a job interview, and like, I program, but I was like, I'm not a software engineer. Like, I know sort of where I feel comfortable, and that translates over to LinkedIn. I don't really worry, I know that what I'm sharing is factually correct, because I'm gonna Google and make sure that I'm talking about things that I know something about. And, on top of that, like people may not care about what I share, but that's all right too.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's a common sentiment. We hear it a lot, and we still struggle with it as well. Like before we hit recording, I was telling you about the advent of code, right? Which is going pretty okay, but there's some days it completely knocks me out. I'm like, should that happen? And the first thing you said, well, the first thing you replied or you told me, well, we all have gaps, and that's kind of the way to look at it, right? Like, there's the puzzle skill and there's the app building skill, and they're not necessarily the same, right? So we all will always have gaps, and this is a complex field. And I think the further you get into it, the more comfortable you come with that. And I think you just have to be open about that. And I think that's, the only remedy.
Yeah, well, and getting better at finding the right resources, right? Like, when you feel comfortable navigating Reddit and Stack Overflow and, you're seeing what other people are asking, and you're also able to get your, questions answered as well. The first time somebody tells you that you should just be, Googling your error message, like it's, there's like some learning things, but you eventually get to a place where you're just, we're just all in this together.
Exactly. But we always have that nagging feeling that like I should know more, and probably the rest will know a lot more, and that's all like self-imposed. Sorry, I go a bit on about the mindset, but that's this podcast has a lot of mindset in it, so I just definitely wanted to bring that up. So thanks for sharing. So final two questions then. Any tips so our audience is of course heavily Python, and as a section of that audience is already working in data or wants to work in data or machine learning, AI. So if people are relatively new to that part of Python, of the Python ecosystem, what are some tips you have to get up to speed? Are there particular resources, or maybe some resources to check out? I mean, we're a bit big on building projects, and I'm happy that's what shines through in your approach as well. Any tips?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard, right? Because everything's so vast, and it's actually easier when somebody is just looking to get into the field and has nothing, because then it's like, hey, I'd suggest you go and get, a degree in computer science and, then take some courses as well on MLAI. And the, master's degrees that started popping up in like data science and ML around 2016, there was a lot of things lacking with those in terms of, there was a lot of programs that were launched like that didn't have SQL and things that were just like very foundational. And so, I think when you're trying to get up to speed, like this is again where being part of a community is very helpful to you. So because the answer is going to be different depending on, are you coming from a CS background? Are you coming from a stats background? Are you completely learning MOOCs to get into the field, which any of that's fine, but the advice is going to be different depending on what it is. And there are great programs out there. I learned my first MOOC I took was when I was learning Python. I took Python for Everybody. If you have no Python at all, that's a good place to start. But if you have any Python at all, that's not for you. And then, I also love Business Science University has a great Python course it's going to be really Python and algorithms as well. And he does a fantastic job with courses. But again, it also depends on like exactly where are you starting? And so I think it goes back to like, hey, like go start following some of the, data science, or there's a Reddit subreddit, learn machine learning, and all of those people are learning machine learning. And like, go ask those people like, hey, if you had X, Y, and Z that I already have, what would you do next? Just to get more tailored advice that's right for you.
Yeah, that's great. I think the community aspect is very important. We grew our Slack community to 3,000 or more people. And yeah, the way that people share there, and yeah, the realization that you're not alone, and because it can be a pretty lonely journey, right? So reaching out and do this together with other people makes a big difference. And that's something I really like about the content creation, being on LinkedIn or wherever, like people engage with your stuff and you build up connections, right? So and that can be very motivating to keep going in this journey. Yeah, cool. What are you currently reading? Last question, or anything you have read, and that's cool that you want to share with the audience.
Yeah, so the book, I'm holding my page right here. So this is what I'm currently reading. It is The Business Value of Developer Relations by Mary Thingvall. So if anyone's thinking of getting into DevRel, I'd suggest starting with this book. And then the book that I always mention on a podcast is Weapons of Math Destruction by Kathy O'Neill, because I just think that that is such an important text, and that anyone who's looking to get into data should be aware of the different considerations and things that you should be thinking of in terms of ethics and building models that aren't perpetuating bias.
Interesting. Okay, cool. They're going to link those below. That last one I definitely want to check out. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. This has been a lot of insights in just 30 minutes. Any final shout out or things you want to mention? Question for PyBites or me? Yeah. Any last things you want to share or ask?
No, I just want to thank you so much for having me. It's been so great chatting with you. And yeah, I'm glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, also shout out to Zhuzhen for connecting us. That should be said, and really happy he did. And yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. And thanks again for sharing all these great insights. I'm sure that our audience will appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks. We hope you enjoyed this episode. To hear more from us, go to pybit/friends. That is pybit.es/friends, and receive a free gift just for being a friend of the show.
And to join our thriving Slack community of Python programmers, go to pybytes/community. That's pybit.es/community. We hope to see you there and catch you in the next episode.